want this to be very respectful, but I may have a little bit a different approach. Been listening all day and trying to gather my thoughts, and I hope this comes out accurate and productive. You know, so we've had a lot of conversation. Senator Stern talked about, you know, what it would cost if we do nothing, and how do we figure out what the amount of savings you get by acting earlier than later. And so somebody who came to this legislative body, not the Senate, but the Assembly in 2012, and was talking about fire before we had fires, and knew that the impact of fire is great to our state. And also somebody who is in business that has been regulated by the Air Resources Board and the likes. And we don't calculate fire into our carbon emission until we did SB 901, which has asked then to the Air Board to put that into our calculations. So if you're fortunate enough to live in my district, we have some of the greatest air in the world, actually, if you look at the chart, because we have very little industry on the coastline where we're at. We have beautiful redwoods that Senator McGuire represents, and we have the benefit of good air, except for about 4 months out of the year when our forests are burning to the ground. So I've pushed and had many members out to see the district to understand that we need to do something with our watershed. It's also our watershed and our wildlife that's there as well. And so, you know, we were sold on, you know, AB 32, and we met our goals. But at the same time, we haven't really, in my mind, done it in a way that the public is actually has confidence in. We put a lot of money, as Senator Morell talked about, into the train, which in my mind will never get the benefit for the carbon reduction. And I think most of Californians will believe that as well. That was politically done, and I think we lose a lot of credit if we don't acknowledge it and say we need to cut the apron strings off and let that go, and there's a lot better places we can reduce carbon with those funds. We know that it's about somewhere between $5 and $10 a ton to do forestry work to sequester carbon. And we know if we thin the forest that our trees actually grow and sequester more carbon, at the same time fire saving our communities. So I think we have some credibility issues when it comes to going back to the taxpayers again and asking them to fund bonds. And in this case, we took last year, again it happened, we put money. I really can't figure out the nexus between the water legislation that came out of cap and trade and actually sequestering carbon. So I think we're riding on a thin line. You know, the economy's roaring. There's more money in California than there's ever been. We have the highest tax rate, and there's tons of money here, a lot of it. But are we really spending it wisely? I think that's the question for me, is that, you know, I watch my forest burn, and I'm getting regulated to death on my diesel particulate that we use to provide food for Californians and for the world. And I just wrote down a list of things here that my own business and my neighbors and most of Californians are being regulated with. We have SGMA, which is a groundwater law you all know about. We have IRMWPs in our area where we're talking about surface water. We have GRAP, which is grazing. We have the ARB, and we're being taxed at a higher level and I will tell you, my family's been here for a long time, and I'm a good farmer. But the longer I stay here, the more crazy I think I am. I think I should sell. You're going to reduce carbon when there's nobody left here. You can't afford to live in California. It's because of the policies that come out here. And I don't think we have, I think Senator Pan hit the nail on the head when he said, you know, I'd like to have a list of all the money we've collected and spent and what our really reductions are. This is not just a California problem. This is a world problem. If our climate is really what we say it is, and we're driving good businesses that are good at saving emissions out of our state and out of our country, quite frankly, and polluting more in other places. So I would really like to have what Senator Pand asked for. I think that before we can go back to the voters again and ask them for more money, and I will share the last comment, is that this economy is not going to stay this way forever. What goes up will come down. And we will take a slight hiccup, and we'll all be accountable for the actions that we're taking today when nobody's paying attention. And they'll be paying attention a lot about how we're spending our money, and I don't think we can stand behind it. So I just share that. I respect all of you. I know you come to my offices and you visit with me, and I appreciate that. But I think that we need to have a reality check here and go, okay, wait, what are we doing? Let's explain to the people that if we're going to ask them for more money. I have a 10-year-old daughter that I'm late to pick up right now that is in debt. And is she going to be able to live in California is my question. Or are we going to be somewhere else? And if we can't do it sustainably and lead the world and keep our jobs here, we're not winning. We're shoving them off to somewhere else. And it's an emotional vote that when we do it, it feels good, but it's really not solving the problem. So I just share that with you. I don't want this to be taken in a way that I'm being disrespectful or bashing, but I just think we need a reality check. And I have some serious problems with where we've spent the money. And it's going to be hard to stand behind that when we go through a downturn in the economy. So thank you for coming today. I appreciate that. And thank you for the dialogue that we've had here today as well.
Thank you, Senator Dahle. Would anyone like to respond?
I probably shouldn't, but maybe constructively, I'll just observe. I mean, I feel very proud of the quantum increase in investment that the state and this governor are making in protecting rural communities from wildfire. And we're going to spend $1 billion of GGRF conducting community fire breaks and doing vegetation management in the forest. First of its kind pilot project on home hardening. We're talking about additional investments here. We spend GGRF funding rural fire protection for communities rather than a fee on those communities. So I actually feel proud about those investments. I don't want to take away from the points that you make. Obviously, it's a different perspective, but I think what you can count on is our administration to continue to invest in protecting those rural communities and ultimately reducing this threat of catastrophic wildfire.
Sure.
One quick comment. You're exactly right on that. And one of the things I failed to mention is that we have a partner which is not at the table, and that's the Forest Service and the BLM. And, you know, we have lots of conversations about what the president's doing and this and that. And at the end of the day, they're a big part of how our watersheds and our carbon sequestration works in California. I did a bill last year. They got held up in approach to I asked Fish and Wildlife to quantify how much habitat and how much wildlife is being impacted by catastrophic fire. Not because of our policies. I think we've done a good job at the state level, but I want that information so that we can then show it to the federal government who is not doing what we're doing on their lands and get them at the table so that we can have them part of this. But we need the data before we can go say that. So I'm going to run the bill again this year, and hopefully we'll get it through. I know that Senator Stern was interested in it as well. But that's a tool we need to go back to the feds and say, hey, you know what, we should be putting them on part of our, I think it's 58% of the forested lands are theirs, and they're not managing them at all. And to your point about the cross-laminated timbers and those things, we have to have 20-year stewardship contracts or we'll never have that infrastructure put in. And we'll all be paying the bill through your iBank, which is not the way to do it. Let's get private investors to do it. I think we're better off. So great comment, and I thank you for that. It was part of 901 when we got that $1 billion to go there, and it was a lot of heavy lift for a lot of us at the table here, so thank you.